Hi guys, today we want to discuss the Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko fight coming up this weekend. It's set to be a very big fight, and it is a big fight. It's staged at Wembley Stadium. Approximately 90,000 people will be in attendance, at least that's what we're being told. So a hell of a lot of people. And what we really want to do is talk about how we see this fight panning out, and why this fight has become such a big fight, and how, in our view, we don't really think that this fight is as big as a lot of the casual fans think it is, and as big as how perhaps it's being portrayed to be. You've obviously got Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko, and we'll talk about them in a moment, but I think one of the really important things we have to understand and acknowledge as to why the division at the moment is doing very, very well and why this is a big fight is because it's not just about Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury comes into this, and a lot of people think that since Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko, that now the division's opened up and it's become great again. That's partly true, and that is an element to it. There is an element of that to it, but there's also another pretty important reason. A lot of people don't factor this in, but the heavyweight division actually started growing as Mayweather retired. That's when it got a lot bigger, because the focus shifted, and kind of as that was happening, you then had Tyson Fury, who beat Vladimir Klitschko. That then opened up the division. You then had the rise of Anthony Joshua. It was just effectively a cumulative thing. So many different things were happening at around about the same time that then crystallized into the heavyweight division almost being reborn and resurrected. So that's one of the reasons why this fight is perceived as a big fight. It's because the heavyweight division has taken off again. At the moment, it's one of the main divisions. I think the welterweight division is probably rising again, but at the moment, the heavyweight division is certainly doing very well for itself. You've then got the profiles, and on paper, it looks like a huge fight. Anthony Joshua, who at the moment is kind of like Britain's golden boy, isn't he? He says all the right things outside of the ring. He does all the right things inside of the ring. He's articulate, he's intelligent. He's not somebody that trash talks, he's respectful. In a way, he's a bit like Klitschko. And because of that, it endears him to the public. You've then also got Vladimir Klitschko, who's huge on paper. He's one of the best, if not the best, heavyweight boxer of all time. I know a lot of people might disagree and say, oh yeah, but what about Muhammad Ali and all those guys? Everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their own perception of fighters and have their own reasons as to why a fighter is the best. Now, I would ask a lot of those people that think all these historical fighters are the best as to whether or not they were even alive when those fighters fought. They probably weren't, and you probably even haven't seen their fights on video, because video may not have been available then. So the reality is, you're probably calling those guys the best because somebody in an older generation told you to call them the best. And the reality is, I can only base my view on who we've seen fight, and Vladimir Klitschko is one of them. And to rule over the heavyweight division for over a decade is a pretty good accomplishment. So, in our assessment, Vladimir Klitschko is one of the best, if not the best. So his name stands out. And then, of course, you've got it combined with Joshua's, which makes for a very big fight on paper. Now, as I say, that's on paper, but we need to talk about how this fight actually is once you take it away from paper. And you need to look at the actual individual profiles of Klitschko and Joshua. Now, let's first talk about Joshua. Joshua's a beast. He's built like a beast. He's had 18 fights and he's knocked out all 18 of his opponents. A lot of people criticise him and say, yeah, but he's not fought the best. Well, who has fought the best? None of the other heavyweights can exactly come forward and say, well, you know, look at our profile, it's so great. Joshua's fought some pretty decent opponents for a guy that's only had 18 fights, for a guy that's only been fighting since he was about 18 years old. He's come a long way. Joshua's got a lot of talent. He's an intelligent guy. Let's focus on that first. Putting aside his power and stuff, just focus on his own brain. Guy's clever. He's been fighting since he was 18 years old. That's when he first started. That's what he says anyway. That he started fighting when he was 18. He first stepped into a boxing ring. He's now about 27, probably going on 28. So in the space of about 9 or 10 years, he's gone from putting on a pair of gloves to becoming heavyweight world champion. Pretty damn impressive. So you've got that going for him. What I'm trying to say by talking to you about how much he's achieved in such a short space of time in comparison with other boxers who tend to be boxing from a childhood age, perhaps around the age of 5, 6, 7, is that he learns fast. He's able to assimilate information very quickly, and he clearly has done that well, because look at the way he fights and look at where he is now. So you've got that going for him. You've then obviously got his power. He's had 18 knockouts. The guy's strong, he's athletic. If you look at his fights, he doesn't move like a typical heavyweight. He's quite agile. In my view, he's probably one of the more agile heavyweights I've seen, especially when the guy's 6'6". He weighs as much as he does. He's very, very agile, very fast and very powerful. And he's only 27 and he's getting better. They say that your prime years are between 28 and 33 in that period. Joshua's only 27, going on 28. That means he still has a lot more potential. Sadly, that's what I think anyway. And that spells a little bit of danger for Klitschko. Then, of course, you've got Joshua's home advantage. He's fighting in Wembley in London. So when it comes to psychology, that can play a part in this fight. Then you've got Vladimir Klitschko, a guy, as I said before, one of the best, if not the best. He's had a ton of knockouts. He's done very well in the heavyweight division. He's ruled for over a decade, along with Vitaly as well. They've both done very, very well. In our assessment, age is important, and we're not Vladimir Klitschko. We can't tell you exactly how he feels or what goes on in his body, but from the outside looking in, it's just our opinion. Klitschko seems to have slowed down, and a lot of people will say, but he slowed down in the Fury fight. He didn't slow down at first in the Fury fight. That wasn't when we first noticed a bit of a change in Klitschko. When we first noticed a change in Klitschko, it seemed to be in the Bryant Jennings fight. If any of you watched the Bryant Jennings fight, if you haven't, go and watch it. It's not the best fight in the world, but there's a lot to learn from it. And in that fight, Klitschko didn't really do a great deal, and he seemed a little bit lethargic. It was the first time he was fighting in America for a long time, because that fight took place in New York, we believe. And he seemed like he was slowing down. He then went on to fight Fury, and people have mentioned, I've had some comments from people about his girlfriend being pregnant or having a baby. So we don't know what his thought process was going into that fight. We have to assume that he was in fight mode, and he just lost the fight in a very dull fight, as I think most people will agree. So looking at that, and Klitschko slowing down, and I know that what we watched, the gloves are off, and Klitschko seemed to be saying that with age comes wisdom, as a lot of aging fighters do. An intelligent answer, but I don't think there's really any hiding away from the fact that he has had more fights than Joshua, professional fights anyway. He's had more wear and tear. We can only assume that based on the amount of fights he's had, the fact that he's been knocked out before in a professional fight earlier on in his career, and that he's a lot older than Joshua, so we can only assume that he's got more wear and tear on his body, and probably he may have taken more trauma to the brain in terms of blows. I'm not stood there counting, but that's certainly an advantage for Joshua, because Joshua's body has less wear and tear on it, and so does his brain. So that's something else that helps Joshua and goes against Klitschko. So, all in all, looking at it, we just don't think that Klitschko can beat Joshua in this fight. I mean, I suppose he can do, anyone can do if they land a lucky shot, but comparing the two styles, you've got a guy that's fast and explosive in Joshua against a guy that, in looking at his last performances against Fury and Brian Jennings, we just don't think that he has the firepower to go on to win this. As I say, that's only our opinion. We could be completely wrong. I mean, Klitschko he's a consummate professional. He's a great fighter, and he may prove us wrong. But our opinion on how this fight goes is Anthony Joshua knocking Vladimir Klitschko out in rounds 6 to 9, somewhere in those rounds. And that's it. And if that does happen, it will be a shame, because we are big fans of Vladimir Klitschko, because he is an amazing fighter. And if Vladimir Klitschko does win, then there will be no disappointment here as such, because he's also a great fighter and he's a great ambassador for the sport. But equally, if Joshua wins, which we think he will, it's a great passing of the torch fight. So that's our assessment really of how the fight, how we think what the fight will go, and why we don't necessarily think it's the best fight in the division, and why it's probably looking a lot bigger than it actually is, especially to the casual fans who just see the Vladimir Klitschko name, and they're normally told certain things like, you know, champion for over a decade, and they then assume that these people are in their primes, fighting in their primes, when that isn't necessarily true. So guys, thanks for watching. That's our video of how we think this fight will go. Everything in this video is just our opinion. It's not factual.